Hello BookTube and all Repairman Jack fans, my name is Nathan, thank you so much for watching and welcome to my channel. This is my short spoiler-free review video for The Last Christmas, which is, I guess, book number 14 in the series. As far as the chronology of the series, The Last Christmas is happening after Ground Zero, so you get Ground Zero, which was published in 2009. Then, in the chronology, you have The Last Christmas. This was published in 2019 by Gordian Knot Books, or Crossroad. It's an imprint of Crossroad Press, Crossroad Books, something. And then Fatal Error was published in 2010. And so this is where it gets mixed up, because if you have been following along, or if you're new, I'm reading through all of the books in the Repairman Jack series, and I've mostly been reading them in publication order, but there's the publication order, and then there's the chronology of the series itself. So even though this book was published 10 years after Fatal Error, in terms of the chronology, it's actually taking place just before Fatal Error. So you just have to kind of keep that in mind. Now, I will have a longer discussion video, which I will post next week on Thursday for this, but I'll share just a few thoughts with this, and I'm going to read the back cover copy. And this is also, I'm very happy to say, this is the first time that I actually get to say it on my channel, that I did receive this book for free from the publisher, from Crossroads Press, which Gordian Knot Books is a imprint of that. And so I did receive the book for free in exchange for doing a fair review, you know, like a, what is it, unbiased review. But I am making that disclaimer that I did not actually pay for the book, that I did receive it in exchange for a fair, honest review. So the back cover says, "Jack is back." F. Paul Wilson never said he was through with Repairman Jack. He said he was through turning in a new novel every year. He also said when a story came along that was right for Jack, he'd write it. The Last Christmas is that story. It's late December between Ground Zero and Fatal Error, a winter of discontent for Jack, who's perhaps spending too much time hanging at Julio's. An old contact, Edward Burks, convinces him to take on a missing person fix. As usual, nothing is as it seems, and the missing person isn't exactly a person. In fact, it's like nothing anyone has ever seen. And in the middle of all this, the mysterious Madame de Medici hires Jack to safeguard a valuable object. Simple, right? Not even close. Yep, Jack is back, and as usual, weird trouble is on his heels. So that's the back cover, and I should mention, because this is a different publisher than what we've had before, because it was Tor that was publishing all of the Repairman Jack books, but then Tor just decided not to publish any more Jack books. So Wilson was able to get published, like The Last Christmas. He was able to go through Gauntlet Press as well. I think Gauntlet did the hardcover, the limited edition hardcover, I want to say. And then as far as the paperback, then you can get that from Gordian Knot. And it's interesting because you have this switch in publisher in the midst of the series, and that it's now going to fit into the rest of them. But it depends on how much of a book collector you are, because even though the front cover, you can see it's fantastic, and it works so well with what you have with the other books, you know, that it really does look like a Repairman Jack book. Inside, like, there's a few things that I noticed. Like, they did a really, really good job publishing this book. There's a couple parts where I've noticed that, like, they're missing the page number at the very end of some chapters, and in terms of just, like, being a completionist with the series, where you maybe want the entire series to look a certain way, I think it's just kind of like, it's not going to look a certain way. And I don't know that we're ever going to get a perfect collection of Repairman Jack books where everything matches perfectly, especially now that we're dealing with a different publisher, right? Just because it is published in a different size, and things like that. They're little things, just little things like that. But I do want to say that I am so grateful to have another Jack book to read. It was so much fun to read this book, and to be able to read a Repairman Jack story for the first time again. because it's been quite a while since I've been able to do that. I think the last time was when Night World was revised and republished. That's the last time that I read, well, I guess the early years trilogy. I did read those after reading Night World. So there was those ones, and that was great as well. But like I say, it's really fun to have a new Jack story. In terms of the timeline and how it fits, because that's part of the project, is reading through all of them and seeing what happens when you read through all of them in quick order, and it's taking place in between these two books. I have some thoughts on that. So I'm going to save those thoughts for my longer discussion video, but like I say, it is fun. It is a good Repairman Jack book. It really is. In terms of fitting it into the series, it doesn't quite have that same propulsion that we've seen with Ground Zero, and then we're going to be getting into Fatal Error, where everything's pushing towards Night World and everything's leading to that. This is almost a standalone Jack story that you could read for the most part without having read the other books. So it can be an entry point into the series, because you can't have events that are too significant that, you know, you can't have really big significant events in this book and then they're never mentioned in Fatal Error, The Dark at the End, or Night World, right? That it's a tough position that Wilson has found himself in with inserting a book into the series, but he also had that issue with, you know, the early years trilogy, the crime thrillers that he wrote. So it's not that he hasn't been dealing with this before, and he does a great job. He really, really does. He does a great job with it. So if you have not read The Last Christmas before, and you are a Repairman Jack fan, I really encourage you to read it because it's really fun. And if you've not read any of the books before, this actually is a decent entry point. I would say I would probably recommend a couple others before The Last Christmas, just to be earlier in the chronology, because you do get some of the mentions and the references towards Night World, so it's probably not the best one to read first, but it's not the worst one to read first either. Alright, I'll save everything else for the longer video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.